Hello everybody, this is Dr. Kravchuk, and we are reviewing for the 7th grade uh, cumulative test number 7, and let's get started so we don't have a lot of time here. The first type of question you have to be able to answer comes out of lesson 28, that's lesson 28, and this question has to do with talking about a family's electric bills were 115. Oh, hold on a second. We're $115.46 for the 1 month, $129.59 for the next month, $113.38 for the next month, and $91.29 for the next month. And they want to know what was the average electricity bill during those first 4 months. Well, we know to do this, you would add up all these numbers. Remember, when we're adding decimals, we keep our decimal places lined up. So we can bring that down here right now. We do all of our math, and then whatever answer we get here, we divide that number. We take this number, and we divide it by 1, 2, 3, 4. We divide it by 4, and that gives us our answer. So make sure you know that we have to add up all of our months and divide by the number of months, and that'll give us the average amount of the bill for those 4 months. Okay, so we'll go to the next question, and that comes out of lesson 12. And this question reads, the price was reduced from 1,269, so I'm going to write that down, to 998. Okay, so by how much was the price reduced? So how much was the price reduced from $1,269 to $998? Well, listen, we know, you should know, to do this, I subtract the 998 from the 1269, and my answer there, whatever I get, is going to be the answer for my problem. So when it's asking me to find the answer to how much the price was reduced, that tells me I have to subtract this number from this number. It's going to be my subtrahend minus the minuend minus the subtrahend is going to give me the difference. That's what I would put right there. So hopefully you're okay with that. Let me clear the board here. We'll go to number 3, and that comes from lesson 28. Okay, and the question says a 1-year subscription to the magazine costs $14.88. So 1-year subscription, or monthly subscription, 1-year subscription. The regular newsstand price is $1.95 per issue. $1.95 per issue. So I'm going to write all this stuff down. Now a 1-year subscription, which is this price, means there's 12 months in a year, right? So I want to write that down, because here they're telling me the regular newsstand price is $1.95 per issue. We know it's a monthly magazine, so if it's $1.95 per issue and I'm getting 12 issues, then I have to do my math. And so whatever answer I get here, and I'm not going to do the math for you, you're going to have to do that, but whatever answer I get here, it says how much is saved per issue by paying the subscription price. So what I have to do is whatever answer I get here, it's going to be bigger than this number, because when you buy something in advance for 12 months like this, you're going to save a little bit of money. So we know that this number here is going to be bigger than this number here, right here. This number is going to be bigger than this number right here, okay? So when we're doing that, we're going to take this big number here, this number here, whatever it is, we're going to call it number XXX, and we're going to subtract from that 1488, and then the answer we get there is going to be the money that we save on our subscription. Okay, so hopefully you can look at that and figure that one out. All right, we're moving on to question number 4, which comes from lesson 12 and lesson 35. By the way, you should have all these numbers in your homework that I'm giving you today anyway. But it says Carla ran 1 lap. So she did 1 lap in 62.8 seconds. 62.8 seconds, okay? Ophelia ran 1 lap so somebody else ran a lap in 64.4 seconds. All right, Carla's lap was how many seconds less than Ophelia? Well, this is Carla, okay, and this is Ophelia. We'll call her Ulf. Her lap was faster. They want to know how many seconds less was it than Ophelia's time. So we know if we take Ophelia's time as 64.4 and we take Carla's time as 62.8. Remember, we keep our decimals in the same spot. We just drop them down. We do our math. I'll do this one for you. Make that a 3. Makes that a 14. 8 and 6 is 14. 2 and 1 is 3. So we know that this time was 1.6 seconds faster than Ophelia's time, right? So hopefully you can see that, and we're okay with that one. All right, moving on to the next question. Question 5 comes from lesson 19. And it's showing us that we have a perimeter of a square, and then we have this kind of a figure here. And it says the perimeter of the square equals the perimeter of the regular pentagon. Each side of the square is 15 centimeters, so I can write that down, 15 centimeters. All right. And they're saying the perimeter of the square equals the perimeter of this pentagon. And how long is each side of the pentagon? Well, we know pentagons have to be equal sides, right? So we see what the perimeter is here, and it's 15, 30, 45, 60. We know that this is 60 centimeters, and here we have to take that 60 centimeters and we have to put it in 5 different locations. So we want to take 60 divided by 5, and that gives us 12, which means each side is going to be 12 centimeters. Did you see how I did that? If not, pause this, look at it, look in your lesson 19, and remind yourself of how to do this, okay? Go on to the next problem, number 6. Diagram the statement, and this says this: 4/7 of the 63 fish in the tank were guppies. Okay, so they want to know how many of the fish were guppies. If 4/7 of those fish were guppies, remember what we have to do here is we take 63 and we divide it by 7, denominator, that equals 9. So we know that every group of 7, every 7th is equal to a value of 9. So 4/7 would be 9 times 4 is going to give us 36, right? So 36 of the fish were guppies. And how many of the fish were not guppies? Well, we take our 63 minus the 36 that were guppies, and we can find out that in fact 27 were not guppies. So that's how we do that problem. All right, number 7, it's simply this. And you have to be able to find the least common multiple of numbers. And here I want you to find the least common multiple of 10, of 12, and of 15. So you know we just count by what? 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70. Here it would be 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. Here it's 15, 30, 45, 60. Up. Looks like 60 is a number that we find as a multiple of all 3 of these numbers, and it's the first one, so it's the least. So the least common multiple of 10, 12, and 15 is going to be 60. Okay, hope you see that. And we'll move on to the next one. And we're at number 8. It wants us to estimate the product. Estimate, I'm just going to put this down. Estimate the product. Now, I'm not going to do this problem. I'll write it down. You can try to figure it out. Estimate the product of 3.14 and 6.25 by rounding each number. By rounding each number to the nearest whole number. To the nearest whole number. Okay, so estimate the product. So that means we have a product means we have a factor times a factor that equals a product, right? So I'm going to round this off. Nearest whole number is going to be 3. This is 6.25 is going to be 6, so my answer is going to be 18, right? Good. Hope you understand that. It makes sense. If not, review lesson 33, and lesson 33 will help you with that. All right, another kind of a question is, it's asking about what decimal number is halfway between 16 and 17. What decimal number is halfway between 16 and 17? Well, you should know if 16's here and 17's here, a good halfway number would be what? 16.5, right? Hopefully that makes sense. If not, if you don't understand that, then go back and look at lesson 34, okay? Um, we have a number line here, and it says, what decimal number names the point marked with an arrow on this number line? So if you see a number line in a problem for this test, and you have something like this, and it's like 1, and this is 2, and this is 3, and then maybe you're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if the number is right, if let's just say for some reason the decimal place is right there, then you know you're going to be at 1.1234567. So your answer would be 1.7. That's how you would figure out where you are on that number line, and that comes from lesson 34. Then you're going to have some problems they're going to want you to solve and simplify. You're going to have to be able to solve something like this: 16x equals 8 times 10. Well, of course, you know, you bring that down, you have 16x equals 80. 8 times 10 is 80. Then you divide both sides by 16, and x is going to give you your answer. So you're going to have x equals 80 over 16, and you're going to reduce that down to get your answer. Okay? You're going to have to, that comes from lesson 3. Lesson 31 wants you to use words to write 100.13. So how would you write that in words? You would write that 100. So that would be 100 and 13 tens, hundreds, D-T-T-H-S, hundreds, right? Okay, good. And let me erase that for you. The next lesson comes from, the next test question comes from lesson 35, and it's going to be something like this. It's going to want you to simplify 1.2 times 1.2. Okay, guys, you know when you're multiplying, not like addition where you bring the decimal down. We don't do that. We count decimal places to the right, and that's how many places we know to move it. So we do our math first. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 1 is 1. I add it up, I get 144. Then I got to count my decimal places. 1 spot here, 2 spots here. Say 1, and then 1 is 2. I come over 2 places, 1, 2, and my answer is 1.44. Okay? That comes from lesson 35. So does this one. You take 3.75. They want you to divide that by 5. How would you do that? How would you divide that? Well, listen, very simply, you take 3.75, divide it by 5. 5 goes into 3 0 times. Decimal comes right up, doesn't change. 5 goes into 37 7 times, because 7 times 5 is 35. You have a 2. Got to bring down your 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times, and it goes in evenly. There's nothing left over, so we know our answer is 0.75. Hope you got that. That's in lesson 35. All right, great. We're moving right along here. The next lesson comes from lesson 35 also, and this time it wants us to do this. It wants us to do some addition. Take 3.4 plus 1.78 plus 12. All right, so remember now, don't let this confuse you. We're adding, so we're going to put it in the column. And remember, 12 can also be 12 point, right? It's the same thing. So let's do that. Let's take our 12 and put a point there. Then we're going to have 1.78. Remember, we're adding, so our decimals have to line up. Then we have 3.4, 3.4. So now look, we have all these empty spaces. You know what I like to do, right? I like to go ahead and put some zeros in the tens column here. I'm going to put a 0 in the tenths column. I'm going to put a 0 in the hundredths column. So now all my columns have numbers. There's less like chance that I'm going to get things mixed up and do it wrong. I count down here. I have an 8. I have an 11. My decimal comes over. I just drop it down. I don't do anything with it. I just bring it straight down. Carried my 1 over. It's 3, 4, 5, 7. My 1 comes down, and my answer for this problem is going to be 17.18. That's my answer to that question. So that also comes from lesson 35. Then we're going to have this one, which comes from lesson 35. 21.62 minus 3.083. All right. Now, just to make sure we don't get confused here, we're adding or subtracting. So our decimal, we line our decimals up and we bring it straight down ahead of time. I have a missing number over here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and put a 0 there. I can put that there. It's the same thing. It's not changing this number by adding a 0 at the end. If I put a 0 in the middle somewhere, it would change that number. But putting it at the end, it does not change that number because I have a decimal place right there. Now I can try to do some borrowing, right? I can't take 3 from 0, I can't take 8 from 2, but I can borrow from the 6, make that a 5, make that's a 12, turns into 11, that becomes a 10. So I can subtract 3 from 10, I can subtract 8 from 11, I can subtract 0 from 5. I cannot subtract 3 from 1, so I can borrow. And basically when I do that, guys, what you do here is you just actually, this is going to become a 1, this is going to become a 10, it's going to be 7, 17. You can also do that by just making this a 20, the same way, however you want to do that. But the answer is 17.537 because my decimal place drops straight down. I don't change anything. Okay, that comes from lesson 35 also. And then these last two questions come from lessons 9, lessons 30, and lessons 26. And I'm going to leave you with this. You're going to have 1 2/5 minus 3/4 times 1/5. Now hopefully you know to do this problem you have to do this operation in here first, right? So I'm going to have 1 2/5 minus whatever I get in here, and that's going to be 3/20, right? So now I have 1 2/5 minus 3/20, minus 3/20. Okay, and now what do I do? What do I have to do to this problem? This is interesting, isn't it? How are we going to work that out? Well, listen, this is what I want you to look at. I want you to try to figure this out. Look at your lesson, lesson 9 and lesson 30, and you can finish the step here. But we're going to wind up with 1. Let me write it a little bit better. 2/5 minus 3 and 2/20. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not 3 and 2/20. It's 3/20. It's minus 3/20, not 3 and 3/20. That's not good. 1 2/5 minus 3/20. Okay, that's the problem that we have here. We have to somehow change this so we can actually subtract everything the proper way. I want you to work on that. Look at your book, lesson 9 and lesson 30, more lesson 30, and study on how to do that so you'll be able to do it on the test. And that leads us to our last question for this review, and that is taking this big problem here, which is 2 1/4 minus 1 1/3, and we're going to divide that by 2 plus 1 1/6. Okay, that's your problem. Remember, I'm not going to do this for you. This is a review, but I want you to learn it. I want you to look it up and refresh your memory. I'm just kind of helping you with the operations, but I want you to do the math. Okay, remember, you're going to do this operation first, and you're going to get a number here, and then so you're going to have some number here, and then you're going to have a division sign, and you're going to have some number here. And remember, depending on what these numbers are, if they're whole numbers, then you're good to go, right? If they're mixed numbers, or what you want to do is turn it into an improper fraction. And remember, when you're multiplying fractions, dividing fractions, you take the inverse. So for example, if you had 2/1 divided by 6/3, then you would actually turn that into 2/1 times 3/6 and do your math. Now, I'm not saying this is the solution to these problems. I want you to work this out, and I want you to practice doing it. If I do it for you, you just sit here and watch me, you're not learning, but I want you to get involved and try to figure that out, okay? Hey, listen, that takes care of our lesson for today, our review. I hope it helped, guys. I'm sure you'll do well on your test on Friday, and we'll see you in class.